Hoover's Rotten Apple, Chapter 5. Claustrophobia plagued the congested meeting room. To stand without bumping into someone or brushing a hand against their thigh was impossible. The more one worked to keep his personal bubble free of intruders, the more he intruded into the space of those surrounding him. It was a terrible paradox everyone found themselves trapped in, and for what reason? Why was the entire Ugly Mug staff compiled into the miniature meeting room, which was only ever supposed to house 15 people max? The room hummed with curiosity. No conversations were being held, yet volleys of comments, complaints, and inquiries were being hurled in every direction. Gee, it sure is hot in here. For crying out loud, you're stepping on my shoe. What do you suppose this meeting's gonna cover? Sure wish we could open a window or something. Oops, I'm sorry about that, bud. Bet we're in trouble for something, eh? This is a freshly polished shoe, and you think sorry is gonna make me feel better? We ain't in trouble, we're just gonna be briefed over them jumping snakes I heard about. There ain't a window in here to open, idiot. All speaking ceased when Blue entered. In his arms were 2 stacks of ivy-colored leather-bound novels, which he sent plummeting onto the last unoccupied fraction of floor available. The bang of hardcovers contacting the floorboards was loud enough to scare everyone into silence. To assure the silence lingered, Blue said, "Quiet, everybody. The meeting begins now." He spoke in a calmer, more confident tone compared to the tone used that morning. Now he had a script to read by. Every word he was about to say was predetermined, thought out, and in Blue's mind, perfect. Using the twin stacks of leatherbacks as stilts, Blue increased his height by an extra foot, just enough to deem him the tallest in the room. Now listen closely, because this is no time for useless repetition. As you know, Dale Hartsfield and Elmer West dug a hole in the courtyard's east wall using their prison-provided sledgehammers. Now, what do you think would happen if the media were to find out that we have such ravaged walls and such idiotic guards that 2 men spent God knows how long digging through our wall and escaped without anyone spotting them? The state would give us better walls? A disembodied voice suggested. No! Blue yelled. We live in a time where there ain't enough money to get new walls. What we gotta do is keep quiet. Don't let the press find out about this. Don't let your friends find out about this. Don't blab on about this at your church confession. Don't even mention what happened today to your beloved mommies and daddies next time you write them a letter. What we gotta do is find Dale Hartsfield and Elmer West ourselves and bring them back ourselves. If the public discovers what happened today, we'll be kicked to the side of the road with no job, no home, no food, and no money. And it won't be me who fires you. It'll be the state. Understand? Every head bobbed, not in agreement but in understanding. They understood all too well the extent of Blue's power and the madness that accompanied it. Countless undocumented accidents happened to Blue's enemies, which the Mug staff pretended to be unaware of. Countless other rumors walked the tightrope segregating reality and fiction. Nobody knew how to differentiate the myths regarding Blue's insanity from the facts. They only knew how to prevent another known secret from occurring, by shutting up and playing along. Everyone knew this except for one brave, stupid lad. No, he said. We ain't getting fired 'cause the building's falling apart. It ain't our fault. It's you who'll get fired, because it's you who stocks up all the prison's folding money in your wall safe rather than spending it on the actual prison. Now, why do we gotta become your private detectives 'cause you ain't doing your job right? Who agrees with me? Nobody stood for him. Everybody happened to be preoccupied studying the waxy floorboards and the jet-black dirt caught in between their cracks. Blue was the only exception. What's your name, Sonny? He asked. It's Jimmy, he said, the corner of his lips beginning to quiver. This wasn't how his plan was supposed to go. The original plan was to be the hero who led the rebellion against Blue. If he would have given the idea more than a second's worth of thought instead of acting on childish impulse, he might have made it work, too. Well, Jimmy, if you don't want to help me, you don't need to. Blue smiled. All you need to do is get up and leave. An entire minute's worth of hesitation passed before Jimmy swallowed and began filtering through the crowd towards the meeting room door. More silence followed as Blue awaited another silly remark. None came, so he clapped his hands together and said, Alas, the hunt for Elmer West and Dale Hartsfield begins. Firstly, I want a complete list of bounty hunters in the area who know how to keep a secret. Chapter 6. The world was too dark for Dale to realize he'd awakened. It was a blackness identical to that of his interior eyelids. To make up for his absolute blindness was an overwhelming compensation on behalf of his other four senses. With poetic precision, he felt the steel wool scratchiness of his new clothes and smelt the foul odor accompanying the slush drenching his attire. The half-liquid, half-solid concoction Dale was bathing in radiated putridity the same way coal-black asphalt radiated the heat of a desert sun. The smell was bad enough to taste, and it was the taste that woke him up. Not just the taste, but the fear of what the taste signified. Whatever the slush may be, some may have leaked into Dale's mouth. The paranoia of digesting the mysterious fluid was what sprung Dale to life, as though he'd been struck by lightning. Yet Dale couldn't jump to his feet, for one of his legs was permanently suspended midair. A new feeling emerged. It was the grip of a stony hand around his ankle, dragging him onward. The body that the callus-covered hand belonged to was engulfed in the powerful whiteness of a handheld lantern. The lantern light completely contrasted the blackness painting the rest of the world. Looking directly into the lantern's light left a transient scar on Dale's retinas. The scar was colored after ripe limes, and it shared a size and shape of the moon. So even after Dale shook free from the handler's grasp and rediscovered his footing, nothing remained to be seen but the gargantuan blob of green that didn't exist. While waiting for the eye-bug's departure, Dale leaned against a rounded wall. As it turned out, he wasn't outside as previously suspected. He was instead trapped inside a tunnel built from frozen bricks. The bricks were cold enough to send shivers throughout Dale's being, yet he was too disorientated to stand without their aid. When his breathing leveled, the first order of business was to spit out every bit of saliva inside his mouth to assure the slush was completely removed from his body. After a thorough minute of spitting, Dale's gaze rose to the lantern bearer. "Elmer, is that you?" Dale's voice echoed downstream. Upon saying Elmer's name, the burning sensation in the back of his head reignited. He ran a hand throughout his lock of hair and discovered a scabby mound of coagulated blood sticking to the back of his head. The lantern lowered, revealing Elmer's amiable countenance. "Glad to see you woke up. Been getting mighty tired of dragging you through this shit river. Thought I killed you for a moment. That would have been no good for no one, I'll tell you what." He released a light-hearted chuckle. Dale gazed at all the features uncovered by Elmer's lantern light. He and Elmer stood in a brick tunnel, too tiny for Elmer to stand completely upright inside. Instead, Elmer's hunched back resembled the deformed assistant of a mad scientist, whereas Dale stood straight up with only his longest hairs touching the bricks overhead. 1 foot of slush flooded the tunnel, and Dale now saw what ingredients comprised the gray stew he stood in. Are we in a sewer?" he asked, feeling a stream of vomit trickle up his throat. "Yep, Almond City shit pipe." "Why? Why am I in a sewer?" Dale shouted. In case Elmer didn't hear the question the first time, an echo repeated it seconds afterwards. "'Cause, before going to the mug, I tucked away a chest down here. It's full of stuff necessary for starting up a new life. Some food and money, fresh clothes." No. That's why you're down here. I'm asking why I'm down here with you. I want to know why I'm in this filthy tube of crap and piss starting up a new life with you when I could be outside living my own life in the mug where I belong." "Because I couldn't let you go back," Elmer hissed. "Because if you go back, Warden Blue's gonna interrogate you till you squeal like a pig. I can't afford that, can I?" "I couldn't squeal. I knew nothing. I didn't know what you wanted or where you were going, but now I do. If they asked me where you went a few hours ago, I never in a million years suspect Almond City. But now we're here. You said it. I know it. So now I can squeal." "Well then, I guess that's more reason to keep you close by." Dale's face transformed into an unhealthy ruddy complexion, and his hands tightened into fists. "Please," he begged, "just let me go. I'm further away from the prison now. They ain't gonna catch me, and they ain't gonna interrogate me." "You're right. They aren't gonna catch you because you want to go back to them willingly." "Just let me go," Dale cried. "There's nothing I can help you with, so there's no reason in keeping me around." Elmer drew closer until he stood a mere millimeter away from Dale. "You're completely right. There is nothing you can help me with. All you can do is harm me, but the only way you can harm me is by leaving me. So I gotta keep you close. Now we're moving on, or else you're getting a much rougher lick from them chains." Dale doubted Elmer would kill him, and if so, he double doubted Elmer possessed their chains to do it with. Yet the thought of Elmer threatening to commit such a crime, and the fact that he'd done it before, and the fact that Dale was literally trapped with him. Dale released all his built-up distress as one brutal kick into the gray water. By far, it quickly became the least satisfactory expression of discontent Dale ever experienced. He immediately rose his crushed foot above the slush and screamed, "Oh God, oh no," loud enough to generate 5 echoes. "What's wrong?" Elmer asked, spinning around to investigate the cause of Dale's pain. What his lantern light uncovered was the lid of a treasure chest, sticking up only an inch above the gray water. It was bound in chocolate brown leather with orange-spotted iron lining. Elmer's reaction to discovering the chest was nearly identical to Dale's. Both began jumping up and down, both began screaming. Of course, both jumped and screamed for different reasons. Elmer might as well have found Captain Blackbeard's stash of golden doubloons. Meanwhile, Dale simply stubbed his toe. "Oh, thank the Lord and thank you, Dale," he shouted, ignoring Dale's pain and apparently forgetting about the recent threat. "Come on, help me yank the lid off this thing." Inside the chest was a potato sack bursting at the seams with content. Elmer examined the innards with the eye of a mother examining her child's scraped knee. "I don't see no water damage, thank the Lord. We'll slip into something a little more dapper once we get on out of here." The two locked eyes. Elmer wore an unarguable watermelon slice-size smile. Although he wasn't happy with their situation, Dale shot back an unsatisfactory parody of Elmer's smile. His plan was to wait for a window leading away from Elmer to open, which he'd gladly jump through, slam shut, bolt shut, and be where he deserved to be. Home sweet, ugly home. Until that window arose, Dale figured the best way to stay safe would be to keep on Elmer's good side. The two trudged onwards, this time in search for an escape from the never-ending labyrinth of sewer tunnels. They soon discovered that the sewers were an architectural oddity. It was impossible for such a structure to exist. How did they possibly take 4 consecutive right turns without ending up where they started? One left turn later, they'd be back at the chest. Dale attempted to mentally map their traveling route, but he only ended up seeing spaghetti. If only there were a string to follow, such as a ball of yarn with one end tied to the sewer's entrance and the other to Elmer's waist. Of course, no slice of yarn was possibly long enough to span the sewer system's length with all its twists and turns, at least, not that Dale was aware of. Elmer also grew weary of their senseless wandering. Added to his turmoil was the ever-increasing weight of his goodie bag. The burlap sack gained 100 pounds within the first 10 minutes of lugging it around. "Do you want me to carry it?" Dale grew used to asking. "I can hold the lantern for you, don't you think? I can at least take the bag off your hands for a minute, eh?" Throughout Dale's endless pleas, Elmer's answer never shifted. "No, it's mine. You'll just end up dragging it in the gray water, or we're strapping it all together." Nevertheless, both Dale and Elmer were in desperate need of a guide. The guide came in the form of a color. The color was identical to that of barn paint, and the way it ran throughout the stream of gray water resembled a vein. "What do you think it is?" Elmer asked. Dale peered over Elmer's shoulder to better see the liquid red. "It's proof, I suppose," he said. "Proof that we haven't walked this part of the system yet." Without saying a word more, both agreed that the best plan of action would be to follow the red trail. But if they knew where it led, if they knew what horrors awaited. First came the bittersweet graveyard smell. Next came the buzzing of a million feasting insects. It all led to the body. Her skin was the color of mold, and her stomach was slit open, spilling every organ that was supposed to be inside out. Maggot holes dotted the carcass in the same random clustered way stars dot the night sky, and carved into her nearly liquefied skin were the words, "Hobo Crow." Dale's stomach rolled up into his throat and gushed out in one chunky, unapologetic heave. "Oh, Jesus Almighty!" he screamed, and would have continued screaming if another coarse load of vomit had interrupted. Elmer didn't bother with words. He jumped straight to screaming at a surprising diamond-shattering pitch, which echoed throughout the sewers for weeks to come. His goodie bag nearly dropped into the water in the process of trampling over and under and through Dale, trying to locate the first manhole to escape from.